I have this really bad habit and it's super annoying and it causes me a lot of headaches and even heartaches, if I'm being honest. And I'm going to share that with you later on today's show because today we are talking all about habits. And listen, I firmly believe that your past doesn't define you, but your habits definitely will. So you are where you are in life. Unfortunately, this is the truth. I had to realize at one point in my life, no matter the circumstances that we've been handed, because of the habits that we've kept up to this point, whether they're good habits or bad habits. And circumstances aren't to blame. Like they're not to blame. And that's really tough to hear when you're like, yeah, but you don't know. No, I know. I've been through a lot of terrible, crazy things in my life. But no matter what the circumstances have been in my life, I still get to choose. I still have a choice on what I'm going to do, what habits I'm going to keep, whether they're external habits or internal thought habits. And so I am ultimately where I am because of the habits that I choose, not necessarily what has happened to me. Because even if the things that happened to me were bad and they kept me in a place for a certain amount of time, I still had the choice to create healthy habits, establish new healthy ones that would propel me to a new place in life where I was no longer back there in the bad stuff. And those of you that read my book, you know what I'm talking about. But habits definitely have the power to shape outcomes in our lives. So habits are important, right? They're really important. And most of us during this time of year are trying to implement and establish new habits with New Year's resolutions and stuff like that, right? And I'm sure if you're struggling to make them stick, you're not alone. Like you're not alone because I think like 87 or 88% of people that make New Year's resolutions and set out to start those things fail before February 1st. And most 29% of those actually fail before the first 2 weeks of January. So I'm like, wow, that's nuts. So you're not alone. You're in good company if you're like, why isn't this working? Or if you're like, you know what, I didn't even decide I was going to set New Year's resolutions or goals. People use those words interchangeably, but I didn't even look at my year 2024 and decide I was going to do anything differently because I've tried before, it didn't work, and I'm tired of failing. So I'm done trying. I'm going to address all of that. And I want to invite you to our Establishing Healthy Habits Masterclass that's going on today inside of the Revitalized Biblical Wellness Facebook group. And listen, I know it's short notice. So if you can't come live, no problem. There's going to be a replay in the guide section of the Facebook group for those of you who just want to come and check out the masterclass at a different time. If you're not in the Revitalized Biblical Wellness Facebook group, check the link in the description. You'll see where you can, go request access to be part of that group and get involved and have access to the class that I'm going to be doing today. It is going to be phenomenal. If you want to register ahead of time, you can get the Zoom link and come join us live in the Zoom. I will actually be doing live coaching with the people that show up to start helping you establish whatever healthy habits you want to establish in 2024. So to register, all you have to do is go to biblicalbodyplan.com/masterclass. And the link's going to be in the show notes or the description, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on the Wait on the Lord podcast. Because, I'm going to outline this amazing 3-step system that I use to fail proof my goals. Like I used to fail at my goals every single year. And so I got to the point where I was like, I'm not even doing this anymore. This is dumb. Right. And so I had to learn how to establish healthy habits that felt like they were part of who I was, like part of my life, part of my identity, and not just something that I did for a short period of time. And I'm going to be teaching you that because listen, behavior modification is not true transformation. Anybody can modify a behavior for a certain period of time. And that doesn't actually mean that they are a different person. It just means they're doing something different for a certain period of time. Have you ever seen people in dating relationships? This is a great example of behavior modification, okay? This is an example of when people are trying to be on their best behavior and they want to put their best foot forward and impress the person that they're dating. But then once they get married, their true self comes out if they haven't went through a transformation through counseling and stuff, premarital, all that stuff. Then suddenly there's this big shocker on the other side because they never really were that person. They were just behaving a certain way. Or you've experienced behavior modification when you're tried to diet. You've just tried to eat less and move more. And that's not who you are. You're somebody who's like, but I emotionally eat. I eat snacks on the couch at night. I like brownies. I want to eat fast food. I don't like to exercise. And then suddenly you're trying to just do all these new behaviors and you haven't even identified as that person yet. You haven't even begun the transformation process. And, having good intentions to do something doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see results unless we have a plan in place. So, how do you get that plan? If you want that plan, I want you to register for the masterclass that's going on today. And again, don't worry if you can't be there live, or if you're catching this later, maybe you're catching this on Friday or 2 months from now. Okay. And you're like, I still wanted to go to that. Hey, it's archived for you. Go to Revitalize Biblical Wellness Facebook group. Go to the guides section of the group and it'll be archived right there for you. And you can go through it and you can apply the 3 steps that I'm going to be sharing with you, okay, to your habit formation goals. I want to give you these few steps that you can take to start looking at goals differently. I just want to set you up with a foundation for not just looking at goals, to be honest, but like how to actually establish healthy habits because a goal and a habit are 2 different things. And sometimes we use those interchangeably, but they're not. I mean, they're really not. Because having a goal is an end in mind, right? But having the habits is the process, right? So the end in mind is like the finish line. The goal is like, this is where I'm going. You have to have an end in mind. If you don't know where you're going, well, you're already there. So it's really important to have a destination in mind because if you don't, well, then how are you going to know where to go? Like if you just start driving out of the driveway and you don't know where you're going, well, how are you going to know when you get there? Like, right? So you can't just go to the ticket counter at the airport and say like, give me a ticket. She's going to say to where, sir or ma'am? And you're going to go, I don't really know, just whatever you got. Like she's going to look at you like you're nuts and be like, security, I'm going to need you to come take this person up out of here. Right? So you need to know where you're going for sure. You need to have an end in mind. That's really important. And that's step number 1, have an end in mind. And that is having a goal. Where do you want to go? What do you want to change about your life? Is it that I want to lose 20 pounds? I want to pray more. I want to spend more time, with my kids. I want to spend more time with self-care and taking care of myself. I want to have a better thought life. I want to have better emotional wellness. What is it that you want to have? What is the end result, the goal? Okay, so have an end in mind. And then from that, step number 2 is to find a really big reason why you want to actually accomplish that said goal. So you can't just throw these goals out there and then willy-nilly hope they're going to happen, okay? Because they're not. Desire and discipline are 2 totally different things, right? Nobody likes to talk about discipline. We're going to be talking about that today though in the master class. Nobody likes to talk about discipline. But listen, discipline is so important and it's biblical because Paul even talks about it. He says, I discipline my body. Why does he discipline his body? Like a well-trained athlete, he disciplines, he shows self-control, right? That's a part of the fruit of the spirit. Desire is wishing that it would happen. Discipline is making it happen. So it's like training and not trying. So it's a totally different mindset. So you're not just trying this thing. I'm not just going to try to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. But how? We're going to talk about the how in a second, but you need to have a big reason why. Because when it's hard, even when you have your plan in place, even when you know where you're going, there's going to be days when life still happens. There's going to be times when somebody's going to show up with an amazing pan of fudge brownies in your face, and you're going to be like, okay, never mind. I'm done. This is good. I'm fine. You're going to have all this resolve, right? We have these resolutions. You're going to have all this resolve the beginning of the year or the beginning of your goal, whether that's in July or October, it doesn't really matter. But you're going to be like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And then you'll have gone no further and somebody will bring brownies or whatever your favorite junk food is, and you're going to cave because you don't have a big reason why, and you haven't really sat down and created that. So I would encourage you to write down where you're going and why you're going there. What's the intention? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to lose 20 pounds? And is it just to look better in a bathing suit? Are you doing it just because you think other people think that you should do it? I mean, what is the real reason why? And for me, when I started my weight loss journey and my wellness journey, really, I really didn't do it for anybody else but me. But for a long time, I did do it for other people. I started so many diets because I was worried that I would not be acceptable or loved or worthy of love, if I did not weigh a certain number on the scale, if I didn't look like the models on the magazine, if I didn't look like the actresses that were in the movies, that something was wrong with me and I was going to lose whatever love that I felt like I did have at that time. And so I really struggled with like doing it for the wrong reasons. But once I discovered that it really only lasts if you do it for the right reasons and you have a really big reason why, then I really started to get this. So, having a big reason why means, for me at least, that I want to be the strongest and the healthiest older person that I can possibly be. I want to be a healthy version of myself for my children so that I respond to life in a healthy way and I show up for them in a healthy way. Like mentally and emotionally. And I'm not just carrying around all my baggage because, listen, ladies, hurting people hurt people and healed people heal people. So I had just made a decision a long time ago that I was going to go after my healing like people go after their weight loss and dieting, right? I went after my healing internally way before, I started actually looking at how about I probably should lose some weight, right? Like I didn't start there at all. But I know that I want to be strong. I want to be able to bend over and tie my shoe without not being able to breathe. Like I want to be able to breathe when I bend over to tie my shoe. I don't know. Like that's just a big thing for me. I remember one time talking to my sister on the phone and I was bent over and I was trying to just pick up something off the ground and I don't think I was tying my shoe. I think I was picking up a piece of trash out of the rock bed of the front of my house and I had bent over and I stood back up and I was just very out of breath. And she's like, "What are you doing, girl? Are you exercising?" And I laughed so hard because I was like, "Seriously, you can hear that I'm out of breath?" She's like, "Yeah, what are you doing?" I was like, "Nothing, legit, I just bent over." We were laughing about it, but it was not funny, but I was like, "This is bad. This is so bad." Or like I can't, or I couldn't like pull my foot up to my leg or my ankle up to my knee and do the things I needed to do without pain. Or my back was hurting all the time because I know that for every 1 pound of fat you lose in your midsection, that's 5 pounds of pressure off of my spine. And I needed to get pressure off my spine with a herniated disc. Like I had to have that happen and stop pulling on myself as it, made me bend over, right? In a way that's just not good. I was carrying too much weight on my frame and I wasn't strengthening my core. So I had a really big reason why I want to be around as long as I can for my children. Physically, also, I can avoid so many diseases can be avoided if we will just take care of our actual physical diet, like our food habits, right? There's so many diseases that are caused because of food. And I just had to start realizing that I really didn't love the food that I thought I loved so much because that food did not love me back. That food was actually harming me. And I was allowing this food in my life, like I would allow an unhealthy relationship. If somebody was abusing me at one point, I did this. This is probably why I just created this bad relationship with food and then had to deal with the food stories behind it and everything. And I still work through some of those a lot of times, to be honest. I just had to stop saying, I love pizza. I love Doritos. I love ice cream. When in all reality, those foods were harming me. So why would I love something that doesn't love me back? Why would I keep being around a relationship, right? With somebody who's constantly harming me, talking bad about me, telling me I'm stupid, and just being really mean to me. I wouldn't. I would be like, I'm going to avoid that person at all cost. Just the same as we should avoid foods that are harming us. So I'm going to stop harping on that right now because I could continue on and on with that. But I'm just saying, like, think about that. Stop saying you love foods that don't actually love you back and have a big reason why. And so for me, like I said, it was just that was the big reason why I was going to start making these small changes that actually led to really big results in my life and in my habits because I started looking at the end first. And then I went, okay, this is hard. It is hard for me to say no to brownies. It is hard for me still today to say no to ice cream, to say no to corn dogs. I know that's crazy, right? Who likes corn dogs? No, sometimes I do if I smell them and I'm like, oh, I want a corn dog. No, I do not need corn dogs. Why? Because it's going to raise inflammation in my body because inflammation causes diseases. And I don't want diabetes and I don't want cancer and I don't want colon issues and I don't want all the problems. Even Alzheimer's is linked to food that we eat. And it's just crazy. Why is it that when we know that these foods are harming us, we continue to eat them. I really, it's because we're addicted to them. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. So you have to have a really big reason why when it gets hard, when somebody walks up to you with a pan of brownies and you're like, you want one, girl? And you're like, ah, no, thanks. I'm on a diet. You don't have to say I'm on a diet. You can just say, no, thanks. I don't eat brownies. Oh, I can say that. I can say I just don't eat brownies. Yes, you can. That's part of identifying as somebody who is healthy versus somebody who just does healthy things. Okay. Like the behavior modification versus transformation that we talked about earlier. So have a big reason why. Make sure you write that down. The Bible's pretty clear about, where there is no vision, the people will perish. So you have to visualize where you're going, see the end result, make sure that it is a big one that is going to motivate you to keep going when it gets hard, because establishing new habits is hard. It just is. It's hard because it's uncomfortable and nobody likes to be uncomfortable. But listen, when you first started riding a bike, you did not know how to ride that bike. You got on it and you had training wheels, right? And you still was like wobbling all over the place. So you didn't get on the bike and just start riding, but eventually you started getting more comfortable, more confident as you did it, as you practiced it, right? You had to form the habit of riding so that you could feel how it felt to be on the bike. And then the training wheels came off and then you could ride. And then suddenly you couldn't just ride. Now look at you. You can ride without hands. It's just amazing. So really, habits are the same way. They're going to be difficult at first because it's new and it's uncomfortable. And most people jump ship because when they first start changing their habits, it's like the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So they start the process of changing. But then the change starts becoming harder and harder to continue to stick with because we're just trying to willpower our way through it and not relying on the Holy Spirit, not having this end in mind, not creating this big why, and trying to change everything all at one time in our entire life. But suddenly the pain of change starts to become greater than the pain of staying the same. And we swap it in our mind and we're like, you know what? It really wasn't so bad. I think I'm going to go back to what I knew, what I was comfortable with, and I'm not going to keep trying to change because, meh, it's not really that bad over here in this land that I was living before, because at least it's comfortable. At least it's what I know. And it is uncomfortable to do new things. It's just something that we have to recognize is there so that we're not blindsided by it when it comes. And we're like, oh, this is hard. I didn't expect it to be hard. No, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be a process and it's going to be difficult at times. But the difference between what you're facing right now and what you want to do in the future is that even though change is hard, staying the same is also hard. So you get to pick your hard. The difference is when you choose to change and you start establishing new habits, you suddenly can see a light at the end of the tunnel for the hard. Okay. It's not always going to be hard. There's an end in sight. But when you choose to stay the same and what you're doing is not healthy, or what you're thinking is not healthy and it's not leading you to a good place, there's no end in sight for that hard. Even though you think it's easier and it's more comfortable, it still leads to cycles of feeling bad and feeling like a failure and just struggling, like thinking, is it ever going to change? But it will not change unless you make it change, just like just like I was talking about earlier, with just having good intentions. Okay. Good intentions does not equal outcomes. Okay. Intentions, period, doesn't equal outcome. And desire is not enough. Just wanting the change is not enough. It is going to take sacrifice, it is going to take work, but it's going to be worth it. And when you start to look at what you're gaining versus what you're losing, that's when it starts to shift. And you're like, okay, I got this. I can push through. I'm going to establish this new healthy habit. I'm going to do this thing, whatever it is. And it's not necessarily always about a physical thing. It could just be that you want to get up earlier and spend more time in prayer, or spend time journaling, or like I do, Christian meditation on my phone in the mornings and in the evenings. Maybe it means that you're going to have to go to bed earlier and it's not going to be comfortable for you at first because you're not used to it. And maybe you're like, I kind of just like watching TV and eating popcorn at night. Or, man, I just really like scrolling my phone till 11 o'clock. Or, this is just what I do. It's just what I do. Well, if you want different in your life, you have to do something different in your life. So you've got to stop saying things like, it's just who I am. It's just what I do. Because if you can hear that statement coming out of your mouth, I've heard this come out of people's mouths, even my own at times. It's just who I am. True. But do you want to have different results? then you need to become someone different also. So, step number three to establishing healthy habits, that's really important foundation, is that you start to focus on the process more than the outcome. Okay. The outcome is important. We need to know where we're going. We need to have a why, a big reason why. But then we need to stop focusing on it. Like we know it's there. We can go look at it on our notebook, our calendar, wherever we keep it. We know it's there. But now we need to start focusing on the process and becoming focused, so hyper focused on the process that we place high value on habit formations. We place high value on who we're becoming in the process so that when it gets hard, we're not focusing on, oh, well, hey, I've been doing this for 3 weeks and it hasn't worked yet. Like, I'm still not getting up, I'm hitting snooze, or I still haven't lost all the weight that I said I want to lose or any or whatever. You know, I still haven't done it. It's because you're focused on the outcome and not the process. After you establish your end in mind and your why, you need to have a plan. And it's important to have a plan and then implement that plan instead of just saying, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to do it by extreme calorie restriction and extreme exercise regimens. It's just crazy. It's not even realistic, right? And then also placing an unrealistic expectation of the time that it's going to take to establish whatever habit it is. It takes time and there's going to be some failure along the way. But when you're focused on the process and not on the outcome, and on the habit formations and on who you're becoming in the process, it's so much easier because when you're outcome driven, when you're outcome focused, you place a high value on the reward of getting. Okay. The reward is the end, right? You're placing that high value on the end and not on all this amazing transformation that's happened in the process, right? And so that's why behavior modification is a big problem for people because they're like, I'm just going to get to the weight loss thing, and you just give me the plan, I'll follow the plan so I can get to the end. And you don't even pay attention to what you're doing in the process. You're just following a checklist, following a done for you diet or whatever, and you're not even paying attention. So it's just like, who are you becoming? That's the most important. So when you become process driven, the outcomes are just inevitable. Okay, when you're focused on the process, you're going to hit your goal. You find value in the process. It's really important. And when you're outcome driven, you could get really easily discouraged when that outcome doesn't happen as quick as you want it. And then what happens? You quit, right? You just quit instead of actually getting to the finish line, instead of finishing your race and running your race with endurance, like Paul talks about in the word, that we should be running our race with endurance. We quit because we're focused on the outcome and not on the process. So I want to share just this really quick concept of making small changes instead of big life overhauls. I'm going to be talking about this more in depth in the masterclass, and then I talk about it even more in depth in the biblical body plan in phase 6, our habits phase. And it is a phenomenal course. If you want to check out the first 2 videos of the course for free, just check the link in the description. You'll be able to download those for free and start going through those and seeing, hey, is this maybe something that I could benefit from and that I want to take? Definitely go check that out for yourself. But anyways, I teach this because it's so important and I learned it for myself. Like, I used to be such an all or nothing thinker when it came to my physical health. I'd be like, if I can't do it all, I ain't doing nothing. If I can't do it all right, I ain't doing nothing. Like, that was how I thought. So I learned that there is power in making small, tiny changes. They compound over time, they add up. And then suddenly you have this big, it's like a snowball effect, right? Like you have this big, like boulder at the bottom of the mountain when you started with this tiny little snowball at the top and you let it roll down. And by the time it hits the end, it's huge, right? So they compound over time and they lead to huge results. So remember that little changes equal big results. So you can just start small by 1 to 3 habits at a time, and you start implementing those changes, those habit changes, and looking at what's the end in mind. What is my big reason why? Then I'm going to create a plan and focus on the process in between where I am now and where I want to go, and what tiny changes can I make that's going to get me to where I want to go. And so that could look like, for instance, if you are trying to become healthier physically, that could just look like you cutting out soda and sweet tea and things like that and drinking water, seltzer water up in your water, right? Like that could just be the first habit you need to create, right? If you want to start exercising more, instead of 4 days of, hour-long classes at the gym, why don't you just start walking for 10 minutes a day, every day, until that becomes a habit? where your movement is, oh, I'm going to walk right now, right? I'm going to do this. And then maybe after you establish that, then you can start up in 10 minutes of walking to 20 minutes of walking and maybe even throw in 10 squats before you start your walk. I mean, just little tiny changes, they equal big results. And the same is true in the negative, because how often do you say something like, I don't even know how I gained all this weight? It happens because these tiny little changes were occurring in your life, in your habit life, and you weren't even completely aware of them. They were just happening and they compounded over time. And suddenly you have weight gain. Or why am I so angry all the time? Why am I so depressed? I don't understand. When you haven't really spent time in the word and you haven't been journaling and you haven't been being encouraged by others, and maybe you haven't been, it's attending your church services that at one time in your life just really spoke life into you. Maybe you've recluse somehow or whatever, and you didn't realize you pulled away from all the things that you knew were life giving to you, brought you joy and peace and contentment and happiness. And suddenly, after, 3 weeks or 2 months or whatever it is, you look up and you're like, how did I get here? How did I even get here? And I've been there so many times in my life where I have been like, okay, how in the world did I even get over here? I just looked up one day and I'm like, whoa, how did I get in this desert? I didn't even know this place was over here. It's not a fun thing to do in the negative either. So it works both ways. So tiny, small changes equal big results. So look at what kind of changes can you make? What kind of habit shifts do you need to make? And if you're like, I don't even know, Catherine, first off, come to the class. I will help you. You're going to get one-on-one time with me. It's going to be awesome. If you can't come, ask God to show you what habits aren't working for you. What habits do you need to change? What habits need to get up out your life, and what habits can you start to implement? And he will tell you. That's exactly what I did. And God showed me. He's like, hey, guess what? This is a thing. And I was like, oh, I know it's so bad. It's so bad. So this is that bad habit that's so annoying that I told you I was going to tell you about, that causes me so much headache and a lot of heartache a lot of times in my life. And it's just a habit that's got to go. Where I live, we've had this crazy ice slash snowstorm. I don't know. In the South, we don't get a whole lot of any kind of snow, but this ice stuff, I don't know. It's been nuts. So we've been shut into our house for like 8 or 9 days, something like that. And so this morning, it was looked like it had melted quite a bit, and yesterday was 7 degrees, but today it was like 35. So I thought, hey, today's the day we're going to get out of the house. We're going to run some errands. It's going to be great. I went outside to start my car, which was in the garage. So I opened the garage, which I hadn't done in over a week, noticed the immense amount of ice in the driveway, and was like, I stepped on it to take the garbage to the garbage can and was like, this is a skating rink. There's no way. And so I thought, well, I really want to go and run these errands. Did I need to go run the errands? No. Were they the end of the world if I didn't run them? No. They could have waited for sure. But I was just ready. Like I just knew what I wanted and I wanted it now. And I was going to do it. Like that was my thought. Like it's just going to happen. So, what did I do? I decided to grab a shovel, which it's not a snow shovel, okay? Because like I said, I don't live in a place where it snows, so I don't have these, things at my disposal, like snow shovels. But I had a garden shovel and I had a straight edge shovel. So I just started shoveling ice. What kind of nut? But I did it. And I recruited my 16-year-old daughter to help me. And so I'm out there with like an ice pick type thing, jabbing it into the ice to break up the ice. And my daughter is like shoveling, and then we'd swap and we'd do it. Well, it was a lot of hard work and it took a long time. And suddenly my neighbor comes outside and he's like, hey, do you want to borrow my snow shovel? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much. And he comes over, he's like, if you just waited a little while, it's just going to be melted because today's high is like 50. And I thought, no way, that's awesome. But you know what? I'm good. I said that to him. I was like, I just kind of want to do it. So I'm good. It's fine. And he gave me a snow shovel, and the snow shovel was no help because it was ice. So, duh, it's not going to help. And so we just kept pushing through, and we had some fun. We had made some great memories dancing around being stupid in the driveway, and it was really fun. And yet, backbreaking labor, like super hard work. And I have like blisters on my hands right now, for sure, on the insides of my thumbs. I can barely like hold my phone to text or create little reels for my Instagram and stuff. It's nuts. I'm like, man, this is awful. So we spent 2 hours. Okay. Here's the point. I'm getting to it. Okay. We spent 2 hours in the driveway busting up ice, hurting our bodies, beating concrete, beating ice, scraping stuff off the ground. What the world, looking like crazy girls out there. But my neighbor said if you wait just a little while, the snow will melt. It's going to be 50 degrees outside today. It took us 2 hours, and at the end of the 2 hours, lo and behold, the sun had come out. It was noon, and it was warmer, and it was much warmer, and it was melting, and it wasn't melting my driveway necessarily, but it was melting a lot, where it was slushy and stuff, and we had worked really hard for no reason. And this is the bad habit. I started thinking about it this afternoon, like, man, we put in a lot of hard work out there for nothing. So by the time we got to the end of the driveway, bashing the ice and snow, the sun had melted so much of it that it was drivable and it was fine. Like, I could have gotten out at that point. And so I said to God, like, man, God, I'm sorry. I put in so much hard work, and if I would have just waited on you, I'm so impatient. I'm so impatient. And he's like, well, he didn't say this, but I could almost hear him saying, like, you said it, girl, not me. Like, you said it. So, yep, you're right. Okay. It's like, you don't want to be told about yourself, but if you say it and somebody's like, yeah, you're right. I'm glad you said it, because I've been wanting to say it for like 3 years. And that's how I feel like God is looking at me sometimes, like, yeah, well, since you said it, but I just knew right away. I was like, man, I really am impatient. This is the really bad habit that I have, is not waiting on his timing and just pushing and pushing to get things done when they don't really even need to be done the way that I think they do and in the timing that I think they have to be done. And I end up causing myself so much more work, more stress. I lose sleep, I lose joy. I end up just really pushing myself for no reason. And I feel like I have to have things done right now. Like, why wait till tomorrow? Why put off till tomorrow what you can do right now? And my sweet husband is all the time going, like, we could just wait a little while. He would probably been the one that says the sun's going to come out, right? Just wait a little while. And I'd be like, no, I'll do it myself. I got it. I got this. Impatience is my really bad habit. So instead of working harder than I need to, and living in super high stress, hurting myself physically, even emotionally sometimes, like, I could just step back and say, God, I'm going to wait on your timing, because you already knew the sun was coming out. You already had a plan in place for me to have this driveway cleared out, right? Like, you already knew what was going on, and you already had a plan in place. If I would have just been patient. And how often is it in my life that if I would just wait on the sun, Jesus, the son of the living God, if I would just wait on him and invite him in to warm up the ice inside, right? To warm up what's going on, to just be there, inside of whatever inner turmoil I have going on, instead of pushing and pushing and pushing to get things done or to keep going or whatever else it is. If I would just invite him, he already knows. Like, he already knows what I need. He already has a plan, and his timing is good. Like, if I would just step back and let him have it, and release the outcome and focus on the process, then I would be in such a better place 90% of the time, I imagine. So that's my really bad habit. And I wanted to share with you that I'm working through, and I'm asking God to really help me with as well, because I'm tired of spinning my wheels in, like, the proverbial mud of life, like, just in a rut, spinning my wheels, doing something that doesn't matter, working so hard, when God's like, I already have that. I already got that for you. I already have a plan to make a way. Isn't he the way maker in our life? So he's got a plan for you to establish whatever healthy habit it is that you want to actually create in your life. If you will just bring it to him, partner with him, and ask him to show you what habits aren't working for you, he will. He will, but he's a gentleman. He's not going to force his way on you. You need to ask. You need to ask, and then go to him and ask him, and sit there and be quiet, and don't be offended at what you hear when you hear it. Okay, that's key. But if you are offended, that's an even bigger indicator that may be something you need to actually work on for real. Okay, so it's not fun to be told about yourself. I understand that. But if you're asking and you don't like the answer, then maybe I would encourage you to ask why. Why don't you like the answer? Why are you upset about that? So, thanks so much for listening today. If you guys liked today's episode, please give it a quick thumbs up. And if you're listening on the podcast, I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast and leave me a rating and a review if you're listening along on Apple. I know you can do it easily there. And for those of you who are going to be joining me later today, I can't wait to see you. And I'll see you here on the next one.